you about the different kind of vulnerabilities, the different case studies, some of the vulnerabilities of the modules also, which is being listed into the CVE database, or we call it as a common vulnerability system. We always call it as a so CVE database is really good to see. You will get an understanding about how exactly the vulnerabilities are into different kind of products, and what are the different effects, what are the things they do require. Some of the vulnerability may not require the login, some of the vulnerabilities may not require the authentication, and still they exist. The reason behind that is it is a first page where while you are interacting, or a common thing which you do not require to have any of the specific access control mechanism. So now today we are going to go forward to understand the secure coding practices. Slowly I was referring to one of the the OWASP document. Slowly we are going to share that particular thing as well. Very soon, shortly we are going to share. But before that particular thing, based on my experience, whatever I have gone through these many of years, what I found generally, that where exactly the software developers do not give their own focus on to handle the vulnerabilities. So here we are taking care about secure coding practices, right? So when you go with the secure coding practices, so you need to understand this particular thing, that how exactly for example, you are using the command line operations, you are doing the command line operations. So into the command line operations, the environment has to be, environment has to be initialized. So there are some couple of environment variables. So if you are doing any of the command line operations, for example, database, for example, MySQL, if you are working with the MySQL, there are some kind of command line options. Or if you are working with the Java as well, sometimes you need to say the class path variable, you need to take care about, you need to set the path variable as well. If you are using the command line options to develop such kind of code. So how exactly you are initializing the environment? We always say that once you are done with the environment or with the operations from the environment, please unset all the environment variable which you have declared. The reason is because the environment is going to give, if you leave that particular environment open for at least say 6 to 7 hours, let's say, I can always go and get it, the required data or required, so the confidentiality is being breached. The reason is because the environment is authenticated. Our environment has authenticated one particular transaction for say 6 hours, and somehow due to my lenient behavior, I just forgot to unset those many of environment variables. And it happens. So the first thing you need to have that how exactly you are dealing with the environment variables, which are required for authentication, you can say. The second thing, how you are dealing with the parameters, how you are dealing with the NIC cards, you can say. So what are those things? Basically, these are the things, or how we are dealing with the input files. Now, if you take an example of any of the web page, the web page is acting as an input to the second web page. So when you are going to create an input as a first web page, how that input is being forwarded to the second web page, that is also you need to take care about. So this is the first thing where you can see where my experience is that, okay, these are the things what you need to understand. Because this is the environment variable, these are the parameters, the NRC's information, the input files. These are nothing but you are putting the data into your applications. So accidentally, as that particular data is being validated already, so accidentally some of the other or the bad user can take the go ahead and get the data. So the confidentiality is going to be breached. Now the second thing is how exactly you are targeting at. Suppose I'm taking a backup of a system. Fine. So whatever through your web applications, whatever the transactions are done, I'm taking the backup of your system. So to take care about the backup of the system, I'm going to say, okay, from 10 p.m. to 1 p.m., there should not be any of the user who is supposed to be inside of my system. Why? Because my backup activity is going on. If some user tries to go for, so in that case, the user is going to receive the error message that your logging time is from 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. That's it. Not before that. So you need to understand how a system works or assigns the permission according to the time required. Fine. As simple as that. So this is the thing what you need to take care about. How exactly? Now, when you say how system assigns the permissions, so in that particular sense, we may create a role, we may create a group, we may leave the user as it is. It is really depending on if 10 different users would belong to or would like to have the same kind of permissions. Am I supposed to put into a single role? So I need to understand this particular fact that which kind of users can be there into a single role, which is having some specific time requirement to be here. The third thing is when you are taking care about the distributed architecture, where every component is loosely coupled, where you say the availability of the system is at the higher priority, but along with the security as well. Because when you say the loosely coupled component, you really do not know that which kind of vulnerabilities the other component which you are using into your application is going to introduce. So when we talk about that, so you need to take care about the compatibility as well as and trust while using the while reusing, you can say, the components. And compatibility as well as the trust while reusing the components. So this is the thing what you need to understand. The another thing, as we are moving with the distributed architecture, multiple networks are going to be into that. Each and every service is going to execute onto some specific URL with some specific port number, with some specific web page address. So the complexity is going to increase. It is going to increase more and more doors. More and more doors are going to be opened. Fine. So we always have it that keep the architecture Simple. As simple as that. Yesterday also we have discussed this particular thing. Do not open up the multiple entry points to the system. Fine. Now, the next thing what you need to understand, yesterday also we have discussed this particular thing, is the default deny. Do not accept each and every request. Put it into the default deny mode so that you will get to know that, okay, or you are going to be so sure about there is a default deny at every place. I need to enable the permissions if I want to log into the system. So this is what you say the default deny. On the very first day, we have also discussed this particular thing, that there is a principle of least privileges. So whatever the service or whatever the product service or whatever the HTTP service you are executing, let it be with the least permissions. And that also we have discussed this thing into the Clark-Wilson model of the information flow. So have always have processes to access data always with the least privileges. Now take care about this. You are running your product, you are running your dissertation project onto your system. You really do not know that whoever is going to exploit your project, and since the project is running as a service onto your system, and that service is not having the least privileges, can do anything onto your system. So that thing you need to understand. Fine. And then in the yesterday also we have discussed this particular thing about security is nothing but the layer. There is a difference between the security as well as the protection. Security is always from the external threats, and protection is always going to give you the prevention from the internal threats. So you need to understand that you need to have the multiple defensive strategies. The only reason behind that is because if one layer is going to go, you do have the other layers to take care about how exactly, or if someone is trying to exploit your system. Those are the major objective of the intrusion detection as well as the intrusion prevention systems. And then based on how exactly quality assurance thing is working to take care about. Fine. So these are the major things what you need to understand according to my experience, whatever I shared with you. Shortly I'm going to open the OWASP document as well. And I'm going to share the link as well with you. So these are the things what you need to understand. It is purely based on my experience. But now let me give you the understanding about, before we start with any of the secure coding practices or before we start with any of the development, you need to understand if the exploitation is done by the input to your product, which kind of data it is going to have or which kind of data is going to be impacted. So you need to model the threats. Fine. So let me show you, let me share the link with you. I've shared the link, which is going to take care about, you can download that particular OWASP document at your end and just go through what exactly it is trying to tell you. Now, so let me share my screen with you and let me open at my end. Yeah. So this is a quite nice document. I have already shared the link with you, which is going to take care about the OWASP secure coding practices. Okay, so OWASP is a standard to take care about uh, the standard to follow to mitigate the risk. Right? So let me show you how exactly things are going to work out. Right? So when you take care about the OWASP, so basically it's a web application security project, you can say, but majorly they have given some of the standards. If you follow those many of standards, but those standards are really depending on the generalized aspect. They are not with respect to one particular application. You need to understand that how much confidentiality you can afford to be breached, because every step requires some amount of budget to be carried out. So it is your responsibility to take care about if this particular risk is affordable or not. And then only you can decide, okay, I need to go with this kind of standards. So this is a very nice book. So here the checklist is the input validation. So let us go one by one, and it is going to take some of the time. Fine. Yeah. All the participants, are you with me? Hello. Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Shall we proceed?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. Now, so if you see my screen, so there is a secure coding practices checklist is being written, and which is the input validation. Conduct all the data validation on the trusted system. What do you mean by this? How do you build a trust? Come on, you are as a team, you need to have in the last semester also, you must have studied this particular thing. That whenever we do the deployment, so before deployment, initially the system checking is getting done. And when you do the system checking, it is required that you need to understand the infrastructure which is required for that particular system to build up or for system to pass. What if that infrastructure is going to have some kind of loopholes? What if your infrastructure doesn't support? The infrastructure requires, okay, the Microsoft Excel must be there. What if the Microsoft Excel is corrupted? The infrastructure requires, okay, these many of network ports needs to be there. What if I just forgot to, as an infrastructure specialist, what if I just forgot to open up the or close up those many of ports which are required after the testing needs to be done? Or after the application, the transaction is done, the port is supposed to be gone. What if, as a developer, I just created a backdoor entries, which are generally called the maintenance hooks. I created a backdoor entry so that I can work on to this particular product. What if my trusted, so-called my trusted system is going to, just exploit that particular backdoor entry? So when you say the trusted system, you need to take care about the entire infrastructure which is required to test your system or to deploy your system. You need to understand from where the data is coming. You need to understand the type of the data, because your intellectuality is there where you can see, okay, this kind of data can hit the system. Yesterday I was reading one particular book. The book is it's very nice article. The article was saying like that there were a particular system administrator. System administrator has given a job to see. Now, just take care about one particular application is running. System administrator has given a job to see that, okay, the performance of that particular accessibility of the application is very poor. And because of that, the end user is not able to interact with that particular application. Why? Because performance is poor. So system administrator has seen the logs, okay, how exactly the logs are moving. And with those many of logs, system administrator has seen, okay, unnecessarily some of the traffic is being created from one of the system, which is into the network, but that system is okay, but the network, the amount of network traffic which is being created to this particular system is very huge. Because of that, it is eating up the entire resources. Now, what could be the reason? After that, they realized that the systems are the part of the botnets. Are you aware of what are the botnets? All the participants, are you aware of what are the botnets? Hello? Hello?
Uh, Ma'am, I'm just have a basic knowledge of it.
Yeah. I just do require the basic knowledge. Can you tell me what it is?
Ma'am, as far as I know, botnet is just like a number of devices which are
Mm-hmm.
connected to a network, running on more than a specific bot, like a robot kind of thing or a software.
Mm-hmm.
So they are all connected via a distributed network to
Mm-hmm.
a central device kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So if I say in a layman language, if I say, correct me if I'm wrong. So in a layman language, if I say it is nothing but, a system which is creating the traffic for itself.
Yeah.
As simple as that. Automatically it is creating a traffic for itself. Isn't it? Now, and because of what is the bottleneck, if the time remains, we will discuss it. But this is a way by which the traffic is being exceeded to the targeted system. And because of that, the performance was poor for the system. Now, so this is a kind of vulnerability what you need to understand to take care about how exactly the reduction can be done with the botnet vulnerability. Which exactly or which are what are the ports? Because when you take care about this particular vulnerability, you need to understand this particular thing that I need to move ahead for the availability. I need to move ahead with the confidentiality. So ultimately, at this particular time, this particular botnet is trying to take care about my availability. Are you getting my point, all the participants? So here, maybe attacker or the non-legitimate user or the bad user may be exploiting a one particular port using either the HTTP request or using either the ping request. You really do not know because the traffic is being created, or any of the remote desktop connection request. So ultimately, the problem is that how exactly those requests are, why the systems are listening to those many of requests. The system is listening to those many of requests because it is bound to take care about those many of requests which are coming from a one particular system. So there, how I can reduce the this particular vulnerability? Target only some of the subnets from which the network can reach or from which the request can reach to your system. Or if your system itself is a part of the bot, or if the system itself is creating the traffic for itself, so the first thing what you need to do is just disconnect from the network which are only with respect to the botnets. Let the external network will move ahead. This is the first step you need to take care about. Are you getting all the participants what I'm trying to tell you? So you need to understand very well the system. You need to understand very well the network. You need to take care about monitoring the log files always. I'm really okay that okay I'm going to test my build up or test my build onto the trusted server. Who is going to tell me this particular thing is being trusted? Either you for yourself or for you the system administrator. So that thing you need to understand. Are you with me all the participants? Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
My dear students, are you able to
Um,
understand what we are discussing? Are you able to follow me? Please let me know so that I can go in more complex level. If the things are really bouncers, you can just stop me to be at the downer side, not to go into the higher side.
Yes, ma'am.
yes, ma'am, we are able to understand.
You are able to understand? Fine.
No, ma'am.
Avi is saying no. Fine, Avi. So where exactly the problem, Avi? Can you tell me?
Ma'am, actually, I'm not able to understand the terminologies, and
Fine. We
I'm
haven't
new to
discussed.
the
I'm not
subjects.
discussing yet the terminology. My case study was Avi. Just hold on. My case study was you are running with the system. Fine, Avi. You are running with the system onto one particular network. Your customer has asked you that till yesterday my system was running really fine. And since today I am taking care about my system, it's running very slow. The application which was running very fine yesterday, today it was running very slow. Avi, are you getting me? This is the case study.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now, after this particular case study, so I asked my application developer that how it is running. See the application log, how exactly they are working. So according to the developer, the application logs are really working fine. No issues in that. Now, after that, I asked my system administrator, see, onto which particular port the application is running. So maybe application is running onto the 443 port or maybe 80 port, whichever the port. It is asking. Fine. Now, so system administrator has seen onto some one particular port, there are many requests which are coming in. There are many requests or there are multiple requests which are coming in. Abhi, please focus on what I'm saying. When you
Yes,
say
ma'am.
there are multiple requests which are coming in and then the response is going to be thrown out. So every time the system is busy, the resources are going to be consumed. Are you, are you able to follow me? So for
Yes,
many and
ma'am.
many requests, the resources are going to be consumed. And those resources are getting, uh, you know, uh, or as a server, I may be exhausted with my number of resources. So, in that particular sense, the customer who is complaining about the slowest running of my application, so it is quite natural. Why? Because there are some other processes which are running, which are consuming my 90% of the resources. So, for the customer, naturally, I am going to run very slow. Isn't it, Abhi?
Yes,
Now,
ma'am.
as a system administrator, this is my job to just see that who is creating that 90% of the traffic. Are you with me? Who is creating that 90% of the traffic? Now, when I realized, so I said, okay, the system is creating itself, or the traffic is being created by the other system which is on the same network. Fine, Avi?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is a kind of attack which is named as a botnet attack. We will talk about this particular thing later on. We won't go into detail. But into this kind of attack is that system is attacking itself to eat up the resources, or system is attacking its own network to consume more and more resources, so that ultimately the performance is going to be very poor. Are you with me away right now?
Yes, ma'am. I'm listening. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just take care about this particular thing. If any of the system, if there are 100 different services running onto any of the system, and if any of the system is consuming 100 different resources because there are 100 different services, so naturally the performance of that system is going to be very poor. Fine, Avi? The performance of that particular system is really going to be very poor, and because of that, the system is going to slow with the response. And my major objective is to find out those many of the services which are making my system slow. I hope the things are now clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Any other question? Tanmay, are you having some question?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Akash, Del, Darren, Ritik, Ashwin, Pavit. Hello.
Ma'am,
Who
ma'am,
is
I
it?
just have one doubt. Ma'am Tanmay.
Yes, Tanmay. Go ahead.
Ma'am, this particular botnet thing, isn't there any firewall or security kind of blocking
Everything
this?
is there. Everything is there, Tanmay. Everything is there. Still attack happens.
Okay.
So, if the time remains after finishing up with this particular syllabus, I would like to discuss with you the normal scenario where we are right now and where we need to progress.
Okay,
Fine?
ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Fine. Shall we proceed ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So these are the things what we are discussing with the secure coding practices. Now, the third thing what you need to understand, there should be a centralized input validation routine for an application, and then the specify proper character set such as UTF-8. Can you tell me why you are using the UTF-8? This is a character set. Unicode encoding scheme. There are many character sets. Yeah. Can you anyone tell me why do I need to mention about the character sets? Anyone? Why I should bother about the character sets? Yes, my dear students. Do you think so? I should be bothering about the character set? If yes, why is that so? Why do have you heard the Unicode character scheme?
So, yeah, ma'am, why do we need it? Like, what's the importance?
Yes.
Yeah, like, what is importance? Is it for standardization?
Okay. Fine. Okay. So let me tell you how exactly the things are. Have you heard the name multilingual? Yes. Have you heard the term multilingual?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you mean by that?
Ma'am, multiple languages.
Exactly. So system who can support the multiple languages is named as a multilingual system. As simple as that. Isn't it? Now, if I take care about the English or if I take care about the French or say German, the character encoding, the character set may be different. And for the German as well as the French, Even if I compare the Hindi or Marathi or Sanskrit, the character set could be different. Or let's say I talk about multiple South Indian languages, many of the South Indian languages, they may be quite similar, but again, the character set could be different. So whenever a particular system is taking care about the character, since we are moving with the global development skills, so in that particular sense, we need to understand that whenever one particular system is targeting to the UK or targeting to the US or targeting to the India or targeting to the China, let's say, so the translation is required with respect to the people accessing that particular system. Now, when you say the translation is required, so if some of the attacker, so system is taking care about, let's say the entire system is being developed in Java, for example. Okay, just focus on what I'm saying. Let's say entire system is developed in Java. Java has to, from one page to the other page, when the Java is going to take care about the traversal. So the character set, if it has to support the multilingual, so from one data type to the other data type, when the character conversion is into the process, that time this particular Unicode has to be taken care by. The reason behind that is if the multilingual or the encoding scheme is not at all going to be taken care by, I may lose, as an application, I may lose some of the data and I may go ahead with the wrong translation if I go with the multilingual. Are you getting what I'm trying to tell you? Translation may be different. And if the translation may be different, the understanding of this particular text to the end user is going to be different. Are you getting my point, what I'm trying to say? Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you getting me? If you go
Yeah.
for the ASCII, ASCII is the 7-bit. If you go with the UTF-8, it is the 8-bit. If you go with the UTF-16, it is a 16-bit. There are the different kind of encoding scheme, and why those encoding schemes are required when you move from one particular language to the other language. So there should not be any of the data loss while transmitting the contents. Fine. And if you do not go with that, or if you change the encoding scheme as an attacker, if you change the encoding scheme, the things are really go in a different direction. Avi, Akash, are you with me right now? Are you getting what I'm trying to tell you?
Yes, ma'am.
Tanmay? Yeah. So understand this particular thing. In the database as well, I do not know if you have seen the MySQL configuration file. In the MySQL, you need to say UTF encoding scheme in the my.configuration file. In the Java also sometimes there must be the classes or the packages available or the interfaces available, whichever the word is good. So in that particular sense, there must be some particular class which is going to support the multilingual. Same way in the Python. Why do you require this thing? That if you are targeting that your application to support in the global level, you need to understand that which character encoding scheme you are going to use so that the data translation from one particular data type to the another data type will have no issues. Now, why do I require this to take care about? Because right now, everything is running on the cloud. I really do not know which particular server I'm accessing, where it resides physically. I'm happy that I'm going to get the data whichever the way I like. But think about it, the way the data is getting translated. In the Google, you must have seen when you say the www.google.com that would you like to display in Tamil, Marathi, Hindi, English, whatever the language you would like to have. So there where the encoding schemes are. Whatever something is written into the English is translated wrong in Marathi or in Tamil, the entire meaning is going to be different. So that's why I do require the character encoding scheme. So there should not be. So some of the web browser, if you get the time, just go ahead and see that some of the web browser supports the default encoding scheme, and those default encoding scheme is actually known to every attacker. So if I want more and more security for my application, the option is being given to me to choose my own encoding scheme. Are you getting me, all the participants? Let me show you one thing before I move ahead. Default. Okay, so just hold on for a second. Let me open up the document. Okay, so this is the one particular document what I have opened for you. Let me share my screen and see here the localization and the character encoding. So just go through this particular document since you are done with your HTML and CSS. Just go through this particular document to see how exactly the character encoding is going to be done. This is the link from Mozilla I am sharing with you. Okay. So just go through this particular link to understand more onto the character encoding and how exactly the things can be done. Fine. Any question? Any question right now? Any question?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Now, the next thing what I would like to share with you is, let me once again. Yeah. Validate all the client provided the data before processing. Header value in both request and response contain the ASCII characters. Validate the expected data type, data range, data length. You may be wondering it is quite similar to the verification as well as the validation with respect to the input data testing. Now, you need to understand the check for the null byte, check for the new character, whatever the standards you are using, if you are taking care about the encoding scheme. Now, please do take care about two things right now altogether. You need to understand the importance of the way you are taking care about the input data. Because input data while testing your product with respect to the security as well as the standard, you need to understand that how exactly the input data is going to exploit the functionality of your system. We need to always use the standards. We need to take care about the policies which are governed by your own organization. I do not know whether you are aware of this or not. Generally, the organizations, every organization into the which are dealing with the system security, need to take care about the encryption as well as the decryption. And it is always said and it is always mentioned as well as suggested. Never use your own encryption algorithm. And the encryption algorithm needs to be public always. The reason behind that is more and more algorithm, the encryption algorithm you are developing, you really do not know that what kind of vulnerabilities it can exploit to the vulnerability can be exploited by the outside world. And it should be made public so that the people can suggest you that what is the kind of thing, what is expected and what it is not doing. So these are the things what you need to move ahead. So that's why whatever the encryption, if you are thinking that, okay, you need to develop the encryption algorithm, so just make sure about it that encryption algorithm needs to be public. It cannot be your own. The reason is because no one has tested it. The testing has to be done rigorously to take care about the security. Contextually sanitize all output for untrusted data to the queries. So when you take care about the sanitization, so can anyone tell me what do you mean by the sanitization with respect to the security? Yeah? Anything? Hello?
Ma'am, does it
Ma'am,
mean
is it like
that
something?
only the authorized users can access and unauthorized cannot?
Okay,
So, like sanitizing it with the
fine. Let me
authorized
tell you.
ones.
Let me tell you.
Can
Let me
I
tell you.
can
Yeah,
I just give a ma'am,
please.
by sanitization, it means to, validate if there is some sort of code injection going on before submitting a particular.
Okay, fine. If I say that, okay, due to the COVID, we are required to sanitize the hostels, we are required to sanitize the mess as well. The only reason behind that is because we are clearing up the things. Now, when you take care about the sanitization of all the outputs or all the inputs, so what do you mean by that? It means you need to take care about the data which is residing inside the main memory, the data which is residing inside the cache. So basically, you are trying to remove the residuals or destroying the data which is there onto the memory or which is there onto the any of the storage device. Now, why the data exists? The data exists because of the SQL queries. The data exists because of transferring the contents from one web page to the another web page. The data exists because of you have enabled the cookies. Are you getting me what I'm trying to tell you? Hello? So, in that particular sense, how there are the ways by which I can actually sanitize the temporary storage so that the vulnerability to exploit the data which exists onto the temporary storage is reduced. Are you with me? Hello? So sanitization means,
Ma'am, could
yes,
you repeat?
yeah. Sanitization means you are try to understand this particular word always, the terminology always, because we are frequently going to use it. Sanitization means applying the different kind of schemes which are responsible to remove the data or the residual from the data of the data from the temporary storage, for example, cookies, for example, memory, for example, the temporary storage, for example, the variables. Are you getting me what I'm trying to say? So this is the first one more example of the garbage collection as well. If the garbage collection doesn't happen, the memory is going to still have that particular variable as well as the value. Right? Did you understand what I'm trying to tell you? Sanitization. Do you think so data can be permanently deleted? Hello? Do you think so data can be permanently deleted?
No, ma'am. I guess
No,
it can
ma'am,
be
it cannot be
recovered.
completely deleted.
It
I mean,
cannot
there
be
is
deleted
always,
at all.
yeah, there is always a range.
It cannot be deleted even if, so there are many methods, for example,
There's a
degaussing.
range actually, I think.
Yeah, degaussing is one of the method. For example, disk crusher is another method, to just crush the disk. Even if you format the disk as well, some of the unused part by the new data may have the residual data as well. So just take care about the data cannot be deleted. So if the time remains at the end, we'll discuss the different kind of sanitization processes, what needs to be carried out to delete the data. So some of the times the magnetic process is going to take care about, just to wipe out the data. Some of the times the disk crusher is there just to, crush the disk. But once the disk is being crushed, you won't be able to use it again. So there are the different kind of things, and this is how the exploitation can be there to take care about the the your data confidentiality as well as the integrity. Fine. So are you with me, all the participants? So please download this particular document at your end by OWASP. And in the next lecture, which is again tomorrow, I believe, tomorrow 2 hours lecture. So we are going to discuss about the authentication as well as the password management, which is really important you to understand. Fine, all the participants? Okay, so we'll stop here for today and let's move ahead. So any question, any suggestion you would like to give it to me? Any suggestion, Avi? Anything you would like to say for the delivery of the session?
Ma'am, I don't think tomorrow is the lecture. I can't see
Why
in
not?
the calendar.
Yeah, because I forgot to mention it. I'm going to put it.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yeah,
at what time it is?
it is, I believe, from 11:30 to 12. Sorry, from 10:30 to 12:30.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
And next week, ma'am,
Yes, please.
I wanted to ask about something related to this subject only, but
Go ahead.
it is regarding, since we're talking about vulnerabilities, can we check the vulnerabilities which are there in the operating system itself? Like let's say you're using a Linux operating system, can you check it for yourself and um, ask developers whether you can kind of do some sort of
Yes,
job?
if the time remains, I will for surely I'm going to ask you for the checking of the vulnerabilities are, but just make sure you need to be good with your Python, the shell script or the PowerShell.
Whatever code you're using, yeah, okay.
Yeah, fine. Okay. Anything else?
This is as far as vulnerability is concerned. But what if you want to put some add-ons? Do add-ons also come in this subject, or this is only security? You're only
See,
going to look at the
so
security
when you
side.
take care about the add-ons, so what do you mean by add-ons? Add-ons are here the loosely coupled element, if I say so. So are you talking about the loosely coupled elements or what are the add-ons? So can you just tell me?
No, these add-ons are not related to security or vulnerability. They're just related to making the software have more features.
Okay, so in that
Yeah.
case, would you like to tell me the add-ons as well?
Let's say if you're adding some notification panel in this thing operating system, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a feature. Now you can
Okay.
have security vulnerabilities also, but first you'll have to create the feature, then create the then like fix
So your
any problems.
dissertation project is ready.
My what? Dissertation?
Dissertation project is ready.
No, no, no.
So in that case, try to understand. Right now, in the
Okay.
first, in the first or the second semester, students are with me for the Linux shell scripting. And if the time remains, I'm going to show them that how to create the operating system by the scratch. So now what also you can do, you can create your own product there, if I understood you correctly. You can
Okay.
create your own product and you can test out really the vulnerabilities onto that. So have you visited the DAM vulnerable web application?
No, but I've revisited some link that you sent. I forgot that where
Okay.
all
So just
the table is given and the how severe the vulnerabilities are, like that much.
exactly. So with respect to that as well, you can check because CVE is nothing but the common vulnerability reported, and every vulnerability is a part of the CVE database. So please take care about if you would like to test the vulnerability for your own product, you can see the whatever the vulnerability is listed into the CVE database, is that particular vulnerability exists for your product as well,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other question?
No, no, no.
Okay, fine. PRN 8,
Present, ma'am.
9,
Ma'am, Akash said.
yeah, 15, 18, 19,
Yes, ma'am, present.
20,
Present, ma'am.
24,
Present, ma'am.
29,
Yes, ma'am. 29.
36, 37, 38,
38.
39,
Yes, ma'am. Present.
40, 44, Fisher, 47,
Yes, ma'am.
51, 53,
53 present, ma'am.
57.
Present, ma'am. 57.
Palakjit, are you with me?
Yes, ma'am. Present.
Are you able to follow me what we are discussing in VAPT?
Yes, ma'am.
61. Pavit, this is your first session.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, actually, I was in Jaipur.
And the things are really going to be tough for you. Please take care.
Yes, ma'am, sure.
64. Same thing for you, Pranay, as well. 72.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
73.
Yes, ma'am. Present.
74. Saima. 80. 84.
80 present,
Present,
ma'am.
ma'am.
80 present.
84.
86.
Present, ma'am.
87.
Present, ma'am.
89. 93. 96.
96 present, ma'am.
103. Krishnan.
Present, ma'am.
104.
Yes, ma'am.
Krishnan, are you with me?
Yes, ma'am.
105, 107,
Yes, ma'am. Present.
109. And all the participants. So tomorrow there is a 2-hour lecture. I will schedule in the calendar from 10:30 to 12:30. And with that particular lecture, we are going to discuss with respect to authentication as well as the authorization and how exactly those things are supposed to move on. And all the participants, I believe this is clear.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes?
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yes,
did you
please.
mark 80?
Shubhitya.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I'll stop the recording right now. Stay healthy and stay safe.